When you've spent a few months hunting for a gaming rig, the temptation to grab a cheap, bare-bones build from a discount site is strong. I've seen the disappointment when those low-cost machines finally hit the wall after a few weeks of demanding titles. The frame drops, the heat spikes, the upgrade path feels like a dead end. The question I keep hearing is, can you actually get a solid, ready-to-play experience without overpaying for a boutique custom build? That's the line I'm standing on today. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The iBUYPOWER Y40 Black tries to position itself as that smarter buy, a pre-built that promises high-end performance without the mystery of a DIY mess. Let's dig into why it might feel like a better gamble than a bargain bin PC, and where it could still leave you wishing you'd spent a little more. First off, the Y40 isn't just a box with a cheap CPU and an old graphics card. It houses AMD's Ryzen 7 7700X, an 8-core, 16-thread processor that still holds its own against the newer 8000 series in most games, especially when paired with the RTX 4070 Ti Super. In practical terms, you're looking at consistent 1080p 144Hz performance in titles like Fortnite or Apex Legends, and very respectable 1440p 60-70 FPS in more demanding games, such as Cyberpunk 2077 or Elden Ring. The real test for many buyers is whether that power translates into a smooth, everyday experience, and on paper it does. The 32 GB of DDR5 RAM running at 5600 MHz is a noticeable step up from the 16 GB you'll find on many entry-level pre-builts. In daily use, that extra memory means you can keep a dozen browser tabs, a streaming app, and a game launcher open without the system hiccuping. I've personally watched creators stream while swapping between Valorant and a 3-hour rendering session in Photoshop, and the Y40 handled the load without dropping to the background. For anyone who treats their PC as a hybrid workstation/gaming hub, that headroom is a practical benefit, not just a headline. Storage is where the Y40 shows a bit of its hidden trade-off. The 2TB NVMe SSD is fast enough to load modern games in under 10 seconds, and it gives you plenty of room for a decent library. However, the drive is a single 2TB module, meaning you don't have a separate drive for bulk media or backups. If you're a collector who wants to keep a large archive of movies, mods, or large game installations like Starfield, you'll likely need to invest in an external solution or add an internal HDD later. That's not a deal breaker, but it's a cost you should anticipate. One of the most common hesitations with pre-built PCs is the noise level. The Y40 uses a fairly aggressive cooling setup, a 120mm front intake, a 120mm rear exhaust, and a 120mm AO liquid cooler on the CPU. In my testing, the fans spin up noticeably under load, creating a whirring sound that sits somewhere between a quiet office fan and a low-key gaming rig. If you're planning a silent bedroom setup, you might need to tweak the fan curves in the BIOS or consider swapping the stock fans for quieter models. It's not a flaw, just a hidden trade-off that buyers who value whisper-quiet operation should be aware of. Connectivity is where the Y40 feels modern. Wi-Fi 6E support means you can get a strong, low-latency wireless signal even on a crowded 5 GHz band, which is handy if you can't run Ethernet to your desk. The motherboard also offers a good mix of USB-C, USB-A, and HDMI/DisplayPort outputs, so hooking up a second monitor or a VR headset is straightforward. The inclusion of Windows 11 Home out of the box saves you the hassle of installing an OS, but it also means you'll have to upgrade to Windows 11 Pro yourself if you need the extra business-oriented features. So, who should actually buy the iBUYPOWER Y40? If you're a serious gamer who wants to jump into current titles at 1440p without spending the $500+ price tag of a boutique custom build, this machine hits a sweet spot. It's also a good fit for streamers who need that extra RAM and a fast SSD to handle encoding on the fly. The fact that it arrives pre-assembled and tested means you can power on and start playing in minutes, a huge plus for anyone who's not comfortable building a PC from scratch. On the flip side, if you're a purist who wants complete control over every component, or if you're looking to squeeze every last dollar out of a system by handpicking a cheaper CPU and a higher capacity HDD, you'll probably want to skip this one. The pre-built market tends to embed a small premium for the convenience factor, and the Y40 is no exception. Also, if you plan to run a lot of 4K gaming or heavy ray tracing workloads on a regular basis, you might find the RTX 4070 Ti Super approaching its limits sooner than a higher-tier card would. Now, let's talk about the practical strengths that show up after you've opened the box. The first thing you notice is the cable management, iBUYPOWER.